the local tourney and get matched with my dame. Just one more goat bounce and I've got the game. Then on her turn she plays Shift Donald Duck. Gosh, it seems that I've run out of luck.
Come on now, let's play some Lorcana. With such a sugar rush, it's a nirvana. We'll rip a booster pack or four, start food fights and roast a smorgasbord of Lord's Lorcana.
Look at the Space Needle.
Wow, look at all these coffees.
The coffee really is even more Starbuckian over here, isn't it?
And the fish are even colder.
Yeah, and it's rainier outside.
Oh, look, Seattle birds.
Is that a Seahawk?
Yep.
Seattle's so cool.
Wow, look at it. We're here.
We're actually in Seattle.
Well,
Are we?
are we?
The joys of an audio-only podcast. We can be in Seattle. We say we're in Seattle. We could very well be recording this from New Hampshire in advance of going to Seattle, and you would never know the difference.
It could be that parts of this episode are going to be recorded in Seattle and parts are going to be recorded in our lovely studio here in New Hampshire.
And you'll never be able to tell which is which.
You certainly won't notice a difference in audio quality.
Not at all. We're going to take you step by step through our tournament experience here from the floor of DLC Seattle. I'll hear all the people talking. Yep, that's all of the many competitors.
Wow, it's so hustly and bustly in here.
What do you say we head on into the convention center?
Let's do it. Wow, there are so many people here selling cards.
Is there anything that you've been wanting?
I mean, I've been really hoping to get some foils of some of my favorite cards.
Ooh, I bet they have them. It's a little bit packed over there now, though.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would have a Bell Accomplished Mystic foil.
I bet they have a Bell Accomplished Mystic foil.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm going to go check, if you don't mind. I'm just going to take a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if I wait, I know there's long lines, but if I wait, then there probably won't be any left. Who would leave that?
That's a good point. I'm not going to try to squeeze in there, but if you want to try to brave the throng of card-hungry players, then you go for it. I'll wait right over here in the corner.
Into the throng I go.
Whoa. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Rob.
I didn't think I'd bump into you. There's so many people here.
Oh, my goodness. It's so good to see you in Seattle. Holy cow.
It's crazy. This place is amazing. I can't get enough.
Are you excited for the tournament?
I am. I'm a little nervous, obviously. I can't decide on my deck list. I keep changing it and looking at other things and worrying about everything, but I think I'm set. I'm just going to let it go and see what happens.
Well, you've got 45 minutes at this point, so...
It's done.
Yeah, I got to let it ride.
Where's Katie?
She just went to the vendors over there. She's looking to see if they have any Accomplished Mystic foils.
Of course she is.
Yeah, but it's so crowded over there. I was like, you go ahead. Good luck.
Hey, you want a snack?
Always.
I found this. It's, I think, from Seattle. It's kind of like M&Ms and kind of like Skittles.
Okay, I like both of those things. It's a weird combination, but
yeah, it's if you put a couple of them in your mouth, it's kind of a weird taste, but when you get all the colors in here, it seems like it's going to be really good.
Okay, I'm down. Let me try. Okay. You know what? This kind of tastes like, I don't know, like Lorcana cards in a weird way.
It's called Format. It's a weird name for a food.
Rob, you're always coming up with these crazy formats.
This one's pretty crazy.
I can't wait to hear more about it.
Well, this is, we're going to do this for our next palette cleanser in a couple weeks on November 7th. And Laura's been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift.
Okay.
And every time I log into Netflix, it's, do you want to continue watching the Eras Tour? And I don't. But it got me thinking, Disney has a lot of eras as well. There's the golden, silver, bronze, Renaissance, like the new era stuff. And we have all these cards from all these different eras. So why not take 6 cards from each era, all characters, and smash those into a deck with no color restrictions?
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're calling it the Eras Tournament.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
So, listeners, if you don't recall, Rob is famous in our local meta for always coming up with these great new formats. At the end of the set, before the new set releases, when everybody's kind of burnt out after set championships and just is looking for some fun, he comes up with these great new innovative formats. And I'm really excited to give this one a shot next week. Tell us a little bit more. How are these eras going to work?
So we have 7 different eras of Disney movies that we have cards from. So if we take 6 cards from each of those, gives us 42 cards. And that lets us round out our deck with 18 of anything else that you want to throw in there. So the golden era, we have like Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia. Pull 6 characters out of that. Then you move on to the Silver Era, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, the Dalmatians, the Jungle Book. Find 6 cards, throw them in. The no color restriction, I think, is going to make for some wild combinations. Cards that we would like to see in other colors with certain actions or certain abilities, we'll be able to mix and twist those around and finally get some rush going with some other cards that draw.
Yeah, I'm thinking of things like Grand Pabby, for instance, is a card that like I always want to pair him with both Amber and Ruby.
Right, now you can.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way. I'll have to investigate all of these eras and get some more ideas.
I think there's probably someone out there who's going to run right to the evasives. I think aggro could be really crazy in this. There's all the big bodyguards and with all those other great characters that buff and move damage. And I think there's a lot of things here that people are going to find that are fun. I think the great thing about our meta is we don't always go competitive when we build these decks. We try to get those crazy combos going. So I think this will be super fun to try out.
Yeah, I love going for those alternate win conditions, I like to call them, because they mean that you're having fun even if you're not winning the game. Like you might not be getting to 20 lore all that often, but those couple of times where you get to pull off those crazy combos, that is so much fun. Do you have a deck in mind? Are you willing to divulge?
I don't have a deck in mind. I was starting to think about characters. Aggro was what really sparked my interest. We tried a bunch of different color combinations, and we kept finding that one card that worked really well, but some of the others didn't. So I think putting Maleficent in there with Lilo and a caterpillar, and I think we can get real high on the lore real fast with that.
Sure, really, really spicy. And it's going to force us to investigate some cards that we haven't investigated before.
These formats, typically, a lot of cards show up that never see play, which is also really fun. I love looking across the table and saying, hey, can I read that? Because I have no idea what that does.
I wonder if there are some of these tribal decks that could come to the forefront in this format. Like, for instance, there are a bunch of pirates already across colors.
Yep.
Like, there are some really good green pirates like Don Carnage and John Silver. And then you can jump over to both Ruby and Steel and put a whole bunch of pirates in there.
Yep.
Maybe throw Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain in as well.
He is a captain.
Now, when there are IPs that kind of exist across different times, how will we figure out which era they're from? I'm thinking of like DuckTales, for instance.
DuckTales, yeah. There's also like Frozen. That typically is the revival, but also the new era with the Frozen 2 movie. Wreck-It Ralph is in 2 different eras. Also Winnie the Pooh. So you could double up on those characters and really go heavy into Winnie the Pooh, or you could use them for either or if there's something you're not quite filling out in one of the other eras.
Awesome. So you're going to publish your list of how the movies are sorted.
Yeah, Laura has all of the info ready to go. She worked tirelessly on a graphic for this, and she absolutely loves it. She said it's one of the most fun graphics that she's made. So
we'll be sure to link that in our show notes so that everybody can get a look at all of these eras. And hopefully it's something that you'll want to try wherever you're playing Lorcana if you need a palate cleanser as well.
Hey, Brett, looks like they're starting to seat for the players.
All right. Yeah, we better get on in there. Good luck today, Rob.
Good luck to you. Tell Katie I said good luck too.
Yeah, hopefully she'll make it. She's a little bit distracted by those shiny bells, I think. Oh, I'm exhausted.
Me too.
I am going to sleep for a week, I think.
Yes, sleep like the dickens.
It has been a full few days here at the Seattle Disney Lorcana Challenge. We have so much to talk about. What a time we have had.
It has been incredibly fun. It was very different from our experience in Texas in all the good ways, and it was similar to Texas in the good ways. So it had like the best parts of Texas. It was run even smoother. We were there with so many more pals.
That made a huge difference. Having all of the pals from New England to travel out with, to hang out with in between rounds, to prepare with, to even travel with, actually taking Ubers and splitting Airbnbs and things like that. It was a massive help. It made the trip so much fun.
Yeah, we had an incredible amount of fun. This adventure started for us on Friday. We got into Seattle.
And we hit the ground running.
We hit the ground absolutely running. I mean, 2 hours after we landed, I was already playing in a constructed tournament.
And I was in a first chapter sealed shortly thereafter.
It was awesome. The venue in Seattle was great. We were in the Seattle Convention Center.
Beautiful venue. It was so spacious, so clean, so many amenities, so convenient to everything. It was a perfect venue for this event. I can't say enough about the Seattle Convention Center. I feel like it's exactly what the event called for. And I think about that big arched sky bridge between the two huge buildings. Like, that was just a beautiful entryway. They had that lit up truss on the way in. They had a red carpet rolled out. I mean, it was just really, really cool. Beautiful location.
Yeah, incredible. It also had so much open space. They even had tables specifically designated for free play, which Texas didn't have. And it was a great place to play a game if someone else was doing another round of something and you weren't doing that, or if you wanted to meet up with somebody to get a quick game in, or as a meeting spot for all of us to lay out our cards or look at what we had. It was just a really nice addition. And they had the vendors in the same room that everything else was happening in.
Yeah, the vendors lining one of the walls. Another wall had the kind of special experiences where you could meet artists or the game designers themselves. So that was really neat. And then at the other side of the room, there was the kind of featured stream area and the prize wall. So one huge, very spacious room with tons to do, lots to explore, and just places to be as well. So
yeah, and they had oodles more snacks than Texas had. They had a whole little food market in there, right where the convention was happening, where the DLC was happening. They had pizzas, they had pretzels, they had sandwiches, all kinds of stuff.
You know what I had for the first snack of the DLC?
What was that?
A fruit cup. A real fruit cup, as in it was a small cup filled with fresh fruit.
This is insanity. This is absolute insanity.
This continues to be a point of contention, but I'll just say that I had some fresh fruit right in the same room that we were going to be playing Lorcana all weekend, so that was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. You can call it a fruit cup if you want. I'll allow it.
Yes, I'll accurately call what I had what it is.
It's not what it is, but I understand.
How did your first side event go of the weekend? It
was great. It was a 3-round constructed game, so it was not competitive constructed. It was not 8 rounds and the top round gets prizing. You got tickets for each round that you won. I played the deck that I was going to play the next day, my Steel Song, and I got to try it out. It was a really nice refresher, kind of get it in my bones again before the next big long day of playing it. And it was a lot less pressure than the DLC, so it was a great way to start. And only 3 rounds was awesome.
So you got some prize tickets. Started that off right.
Definitely. How about you? You did a first chapter sealed.
Yep, I did a first chapter sealed. I did not pull anything interesting. I think my best card was a Tamatoa, which I didn't play in my deck. But I did manage to go 3-0. I got a bunch of tickets. That's always great. If you manage to go 3-0, you get the bonus tickets in the 3rd round. So we were off to a really good start with tickets. So that was exciting. And it was fun to open up some first chapter packs. I met some really cool people. I love doing sealeds. It's a great kind of low stakes environment to be just cracking some packs with folks. Everybody's cheering when an enchanted gets opened. It's like somebody will hold up the enchanted they got and they're like, got one, and like everybody around starts cheering and clapping. It was really cool.
Yeah, really fun. Fun to be in that big space with sealeds, and you can hear the packs all ripping at the same time, and it's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. They're all opening up the wrapper to see who gets the enchanted.
Yeah, looking for those golden tickets.
Exactly.
Then we went back to our Airbnb with some takeout sushi in tow. Delicious. We did some practicing, got some games in, talked about, the plans for tomorrow, and then tried to go to sleep and get some rest.
We were a little bit jet lagged from the travel, and we were all really excited to get up in the morning. So it was kind of a whirlwind of falling right asleep and waking right up. Like, an hour later, it felt like.
We stayed up until about midnight local time. And then I woke up at 4 local time because that's when I would normally wake up, and my body said, oh, it's time for you to get up. It's 7 a.m. on the East Coast. And so my sleep was not super great in terms of length, but it's okay.
Tough sleeping patterns for sure for us. But we were so excited for the day. We went out. We walked around Seattle a little bit that morning. We saw Pike Place, which was cool.
Ate a big old breakfast.
A big breakfast, like huge. We had some eggs, we had some potatoes, we had some bacon. Really good. Got charged up for the day. As we always say, the snacks are so important.
Need that brain fuel.
You sure do.
And then the main event started. So, Katie, walk us through your day at the main event. 9 rounds of Swiss. 2 games in each round. You're playing 18 games over the course of the day, and you're just trying to win as many as you possibly can. So how did it go for you? Tell us about the deck you're playing, first of all.
Yeah, so 9 rounds is a long day. You want to have a deck that you feel like you can play all day. So I was playing Amber Steel Song. It was a little bit of like an aggro flavor on Steel Song, which I enjoy. I enjoy a deck that's a little more aggressive. I have a hard time sitting back. It's why I don't get along well with colors like Sapphire. So I was having a great time with this deck. I had had fun at set champs. I had gotten top 8 in 2 set champs that we had been to. So
in both of the set champs that you went to, you played this deck, and you got top 8 in both of them.
Yeah, so I knew I was going to have a good time. I felt like I had a pretty good chance against all my matchups.
So this deck is a little bit unconventional in that it doesn't run aerial, right?
Right.
You have a few copies of Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire, and you do run Whole New World. But beyond that, it's more about consistently landing Piglets and Lawrences and Smees, and you even have Sven to just keep questing for 2 with all of these characters over and over again.
Exactly, and I don't have a Grab Your Sword. A lot of people that I played against were waiting for a Grab Your Sword or trying to play around a Grab Your Sword, which worked out really well for me because it means they're less aggressive on board, and that's ideal. So it kind of works to have the boogeyman of the actual Steel Song deck kind of in people's minds. So when they start to see the color combination, or they see some cards or a song that I play or a Naveen, they start thinking ahead and trying to plan out what that deck is. But mine's a little bit off from that. So it's fun. And this is not my own creation of this list. This is based off of Boomy's Steel Song list. So it's not, I cannot take credit for the flavor of this, but it was a more rare Steel Song deck that you were going to see that weekend. So I was doing really well at the beginning. My first 2 rounds were 2-0, which means I was all the way up at table 16 for round 3, which was like really cool. For perspective, the tables go out to like 900 or so. So it's cool to be up near the top tables, especially because, I have a lot of confidence in myself, and I still, overall had a really good day and did a good job, but I knew I wasn't going to finish at table 4. So it was exciting to be up there at those tables.
Who did you play in round 3?
In round 3, I played against Kevin from Lorcana Goons.
Somebody that we watch on YouTube all of the time.
Yes.
A wicked nice guy.
Yeah. It was a blast. It was so much fun to play against him because I also wanted to talk to him and chat with him in general anyways at the DLC because we watch him so much and I really appreciate his content. We wanted to chat with him and we wanted to tell him about our podcast and try to share the love a little bit. He's given us so much great content. So it was really fun to play against him. He's a really cool dude. We chatted about Lorcana. We exchanged stickers. He gave us some keychains. We had really good games. We split, which felt good. And then the rest of the day for me was less exciting. I split a couple more times. I lost a couple rounds. I ended up right in the middle of the pack at the end of the day. Felt like I did pretty well. I did not do as well as I did in Texas by a little bit, but in Texas, I was definitely, I think, more comfortable with that deck. And that deck I was playing in Texas, the Amber Ruby, comes a little bit more naturally to me than Steel Song does, but I was proud of myself for taking the risk with the Steel Song deck and trying something new and getting my brain out there to a different place to get to know Lorcana better. And I think I definitely did. How about you, Brett? How was your day at the DLC?
My main event was uneven, is what I would say. I had a really wild, kind of anomalous day, I think. It felt like nothing went according to plan. Just really strange experiences throughout the day. So I was playing the Sapphire Steelless that I had been feeling really confident on. I won like 4 events like across 2 weeks leading up to this. I kind of felt like I just knew the deck. I knew how to play it. I knew how to win. And I was ready to prey on Emerald Steel, that discard deck that I played against a ton. And so I was ready to go as the event started. And round 1, my entire tournament started against Ruby Amethyst, which is a difficult matchup if they are playing Flynn's and Sisu's, which some Ruby Amethyst lists have been moving away from the Flynn's. He can be a real problem for Sapphire Steel, especially when they're going first. But anyway, my first game starts with my opponent full keeping 7 cards in their mulligan, and I had to full send my hand away.
Wow.
I couldn't find a Hiram or a Fishbone Quill in that first game, and I couldn't find a Hiram in the second game. And, priority of playing against either of the main Ruby decks is finding Hirams, and preferably multiple Hirams. So you have Vision of the Future, which very often your first Vision of the Future that you use in the game is to find a Hiram, especially your second Hiram, because the first one will get brawled. So I played 2 Vision of the Futures and didn't find a Hiram with either one. So I completely bricked. I bricked harder in that game than I'd bricked in weeks, which happens, right? It was just a really poor start to the day. I could have won on the play. I had my aerial and I was trying to force the be prepared, but I couldn't find a lucky dime. And so I couldn't kind of keep up in the lore game and was eventually overtaken. So I had 1 total brick and 1 where I just didn't get what I needed. But that was okay. I tried to rally a little bit. I then went into my second round and I was paired with an opponent who was extremely new to Lorcana, who hadn't played a ton of games, who wasn't familiar with any meta decks, etc., which is great. We love to see this. We love to have the most inviting card game in the world, right? That's what we are always espousing.
Exactly. You don't want to feel like it's just a room filled with people who get to play all the time, who are super competitive, and no one's having fun, and it's all about getting points and getting there. The idea that someone could say, I've never played this before, I'm going to show up to a DLC, is a really good sign. Absolutely.
So we were working through the games together, talking through everything, I was trying to help with rulings and offer tips and stuff and remind my opponent about triggers. And I absolutely, inadvertently helped my opponent to beat me in one of the games, I was very happy for my opponent. That's great. I think that can be a big confidence boost. I, definitely wish that I had done that in a different arena rather than the Disney Lorcana challenge that we had, it's gone through all this effort to get to. I, was doing things like, oh, you should sing Friends on the Other Side here. That would be great. And don't forget your Emerald Chromacon triggers. You can bounce my Tinkerbell back and it's okay because your characters have high willpower right now. I was very much, kind of coaching a little bit during that game, and should have absolutely won those 2 games. So I'm trying to be delicate because I really do believe that it's important to offer those experiences to newer players. I just wish that maybe it didn't happen in the Disney Lorcana challenge at that moment.
I agree. I mean, I think it does force an awkward social situation, I suppose, right? Where you're just going to totally slaughter this person in Lorcana and they don't know what they're doing. It's an interesting social discussion. A lot of people would not have helped their opponent. you might be the only one in that whole room that would have actually helped their opponent.
I don't know if that's true, but I just
which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, and that's okay. It's as we've always said, and we just said, it's not about, you know, winning all the games. It's not about taking all the names. It's the experience. It's meeting people. It's doing side events. It's participating in a big tournament like that. Like it's its own thing. It does a lot of good. It's still worth traveling to no matter what happens.
Yeah, I hope I earned some karma is the way I'm looking at it. I hope that I put some good juju into the room and that player continues to play and have positive experiences and build on any small successes that they are starting to have. So it came perhaps at the expense of my record in the Disney Lorcana Challenge, but that's okay. You know, that wasn't the end of the tournament. But anyway, I tried to rally from that position. I then played against a Steel Song deck. It was somebody who I had actually beaten in the first chapter sealed the day before, coincidentally, which is, you know, it's kind of a wild coincidence.
Yeah.
My opponent was playing Steel Song, which is already a somewhat difficult matchup if they have a lot of high questing characters early. Like if I'm seeing Daisies and Piglets and Smees and Lawrence's early, it can be really difficult. My opponent was also playing Rapunzel's Towers,
which is crazy.
I have not seen that card played. I think it is a strong card, and I think it was proved effective in our series. I was able to race the Rapunzel's Tower when I went first on the play. On the draw, my opponent was able to move all of their characters to Rapunzel's Tower, so I needed to deal with that 8 willpower location so that I could then have a hope of clearing the 5 willpower Piglets and 8 willpower Rapunzels. You know that if you've played against Sapphire Steel, all of their control elements are predicated on doing damage across an entire board, like splash damage with Grab Your Sword and Tinkerbell. Often those come in waves of 1 and 2, you know, or 3. So when characters have 5 and 8 willpower across the board, it's extremely difficult. So that one card made this matchup pretty much impossible for me. I had so much trouble clearing the characters and the locations. So wasn't able to take that down thanks to that tech card, which really hoses Sapphire Steel. So already I'm just kind of feeling like weird. Like I'm bricking, I'm helping my opponents to win, and then I'm facing cards that I never expected to see. And that might have been the only person in the whole room who was playing Rapunzel's Tower. So I'm feeling really just uneven about the whole day so far. I go into round 4. I lose the next game on the draw, at which point my opponent says, well, I'm still alive at this point, you know, is there anything you want to do about game 2? Meaning, like, if you concede to me, if we do a gentleman's agreement here, I'm still in it. Like, I can still be in it if you give me this next game. This, strictly speaking, is, I believe, against, you know, the rules
yes, it is.
Of the tournament. But it wasn't done maliciously, or like, I don't think my opponent even maybe knew that this wasn't within the rules. But I am having a good time with my opponent. It's very pleasant. I always try to put my best foot forward and have a good time and put fun first. So I'm like, sure, yeah, you know, I'll concede this game. And he's like, great, let me just log it in. You know, we'll log it in here and then we'll play it. And he's like, but we can still play. And I'm like, okay, great. And then I win on the play in game 2, but I've conceded it. So at this point, I'm what? 0 2-0s, 2 0-2s, and 2 1-1s. So I'm out of contention for day 2 already. I've had these 2 kind of frustrating games that I kind of gave away, and I'm feeling like the tournament is playing me and I'm not playing the games, like we always said we want to avoid, of course. My day record-wise gets better from there for sure. Managed to get some 2-0s and kind of claw back to respectability. I felt like I played pretty well on the day. I had one close game that I want back that I might have been able to win, but my day was effectively over from a competitive standpoint very early on, and so it was hard to have my heart and head kind of in it. I got pretty tired, which doesn't usually happen to me, but I was worn down by some of those early experiences where I was like, my tournament was kind of over before it started. I like bricked, saw a weird tech card, helped my opponent beat me, and conceded a game I won. And that was my DLC.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel great. It wasn't super fulfilling. I didn't have like a bunch of nail biter games that I was super invested in or anything like that. And
Wow.
I faced 0 Emerald Steel. I faced only Emerald Steel. I faced so much Emerald Steel throughout the Set Champs season. I picked Sapphire Steel because I knew I could beat Emerald Steel with it, and I faced 0 on the day.
That's insane. The odds of that happening are so low.
Yeah, so that was another weird kind of anomalous type thing about my day. It just felt weird.
Yeah, kind of a funky day for you.
It could have gone better.
Yeah.
And even just in terms of my record looking back, I think if I hadn't conceded that game early on, I was still in contention for a Let It Go. Like I wasn't out of contention for that. So I did take myself out of contention for like a certain tier of prizing by just conceding a game really, really early before the tournament was even halfway over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a social problem that we talk about all the time that, no one should be able to say anything about their points or try to coerce you to concede a game or change something. And what that person did is exactly what they tell you not to do at the DLC. And it just feels like it's... I
see what you're saying for sure. I don't blame my opponent. It's hard to describe the atmosphere of this. Like we were having a good time and I understood what he was saying and I understand his reasoning for it. I wish that it hadn't been brought up. I wish that we could just play the games, but I blame more the system that enables this, specifically the fact that in the 2-game format, giving the bonus point for winning both games against one player is what facilitates all of these agreements between players, especially as the rounds go on. So I feel like there has to be some adjustment to the rules where the incentive to win both games in a round is reduced. As it stands, so many games at these events, at these DLCs, are not determined by actually playing the game of Lorcana. It invites a lot of collusion and kind of handshake agreements. It's not great. It does need to get cleaned up for sure. I wish that I had a little bit more chutzpah or whatever to say like, no, I'm still in this. Like there are still things I can do. I'm still in contention for a Let It Go. And also I want to equip myself as best as I can. I want to see how well I can do. So it was frustrating for sure. But I don't just put the onus on my opponent in that situation.
Yeah, I hear you there. It's frustrating. It's a frustrating kind of combination of a day, but, I'm glad you still got some 2-0s and you had fun with your deck. So, after Saturday, we did the whole DLC. We went back to the Airbnb, and we needed food. We needed some kind of sustenance. Once again, folks, food is the most important thing that you can do in order to maintain this long, crazy weekend.
So, Katie hopped on and ordered pizzas for our entire Airbnb, which was very cool.
Seattle's finest Domino's Pizza.
The place that was delivering at the hour we needed pizza.
Exactly. So that was great. We fueled up for the next morning. On Sunday, we woke up bright and early once again, and we were both competing in the 8 a.m. competitive constructed tournament.
You took a deck you'd never played before. I took a thematic princess deck, and we got destroyed for a couple of rounds.
Sure did, yeah.
And we dropped so that we could hop into the Rise of the Floodborn Sealed that we had also registered for.
Yeah, so a bunch of us were doing the 8 a.m. competitive constructed. It's a little tricky. It's, the morning after you've just done 9 rounds of competitive constructed play, and a lot of people in our group were playing the same decks they had played the day before.
I misread the tenor of the event. I was thinking that folks would be a little bit more loosey-goosey, but instead I just got waxed by, just the same decks that I saw the day before. I really loved playing my princess deck. I stole a couple of games, but I wasn't going to make it very far, and I thought, let's go play the sealed and open some packs.
Yeah, as they call it, people were still sweaty on Sunday. looking for those tickets. Some people were scorned that they did not make it to the top 64, all that jazz. It made it a little not as much fun as it seemed. And the prizing was not as great for competitive constructed as it had seemed to be. You really had to get to the top 32 of the competitive constructed in order to be eligible for any tickets.
Yeah, it was super top heavy, those events. So as soon as you kind of are out of contention for that, you just can drop. There's no incentive to stick around and keep playing.
Right. And it's a very long constructed tournament.
It's almost as long as the previous day. It's 8 rounds of 2 games instead of 9. So that wasn't going to be as fun to stick around with decks that we were just kind of fooling around with.
Exactly. So we dropped that. We did the Floodborn sealed.
I got the best sealed deck I've ever had in Lorcana. My sealed deck was absolutely cracked.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I opened a Beast Tragic Hero, first of all, which right away you're like, that's a total
Amazing.
bomb, right? And then I had tons of evasives. I had removal. I had Cinderella Stout-Hearted. I had a Madam Mim Dragon. Just bombs all over the place. A really great curve. I had, plenty of solid 1-drops, solid 2-drops. I had card draw. I had top end. I had everything that you could possibly want. I had a foil rabbit. I had a goat. I had a couple of snakes. I even had shift targets for my Cinderella Stout-Hearted. I managed to shift Cinderella in sealed. And let me tell you, I played a Madam Mim Dragon and bounced a rabbit and a goat.
Wow.
So it was absurd. I feel pretty comfortable in sealed in general, making it work with whatever. I never want to belittle the efforts of my opponents, but I just had a better deck than them. This was a scenario where I was already ahead before the game started. I've played a whole bunch of sealed, and this was absolutely the best sealed deck I've ever had.
That's a great time for it to be the best sealed deck you ever had. It was awesome. It was so cool watching you make a just total run of it.
How did you do?
I had terrible cards.
No.
Yes, I only pulled 1 super rare out of all 6 packs, and it was a Tiana, who's not great in sealed. I just had really nasty cards. Yeah, so I lost 2 rounds and I won 1 round of sealed. It was tricky. My deck wasn't that great, but I love opening up the packs. I love playing sealed. It's my favorite form of Lorcana, so I was happy that I got to do it. I love opening Floodborn packs. We definitely have the least of those. So, yeah, I had a great time.
So we had a ton of tickets. We walked over to that prize wall. We kind of deliberated a little bit, and we settled on getting a playset of non-foil Rapunzels. We also scored a Cinderella.
Yep.
And a few packs of Ursula's Return.
Yep. It was everything we wanted it to be. We could have gotten a mat, but we had already gotten a mat before. We had our time with a beautiful Cinderella mat.
And once that Donald Duck mat comes out, I am playing on that. So
yes,
if I need a steel themed mat, Donald Duck Buccaneer is going to be my steel mat of choice.
Yep, already got it booked. Something else that I loved about the DLC this time was how many people we got to see. Last time, Texas was a little bit busy and clustered, and it felt like we were just kind of in a corner all day playing games, and then we left. This time, we got to meet a lot of other content creators. I know we talked about meeting Kevin. We got to chat with Rebecca for a while. We also met some artists for Lorcana. They had artist meet and greets. You could get them to sign posters or cards. Some people had them signing mats.
It felt like such a celebration of the game, which is what we always said we wanted to see at these events. So it was really, really cool. And then to cap it all off,
we got a meet and greet with the co-creator of Lorcana, Ryan Miller.
It was so cool. We got to walk up, give him a Smorcana sticker, tell him how much we love the game, thank him for making it, tell him about the podcast, take a picture with him. He was so gracious and kind and warm, and it was a real treat, a highlight of the weekend.
It was a really fun time. It was a free experience that we got to sign up for early, a few days before we left for Seattle. We got to enter a lottery to get chosen to get this meet and greet. And then we had a window where we could go up to the table. We found some time, luckily, in the middle of our Floodborne Sealed experience on Sunday to walk up there and have this, pretty lengthy meet and greet. It was a good 5 minutes. We got to be up there chatting with him, and we took a picture. It was a real blast.
I see Archer striding this way, a champion from New England. He had such a good run. We have to ask him about it.
A legend for all time. Archer, how was your time at the DLC?
It was great. I had a great time all weekend hanging out with everybody. It was great having a crew there. Everyone kind of cheering everybody on.
Yeah, we loved cheering you on. You had such a good run. You made it all the way to top 64 of a 2,000 person event.
Sure did. It happened.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch it happening throughout the day. You had a really good start. We were all really cautiously optimistic for you.
There was more than a few of us, I think, had a good start. It was like a few rounds there of like, ooh, who's going to kind of make a run.
I was really excited. We were hanging out with Jimmy watching your match and we weren't sure how it went. I was really nervous. I couldn't tell. You're pretty stoic, kind of a poker face when you're playing.
Yeah.
And you stood up and you turned around and you looked at us and you just held up 2 fingers and then a big 0 with your fingers. And I was like, yay, 2-0, he did it. He got in. It was so cool.
Yeah, it meant the next round I get ID and day 2, here we come.
Dang, that's
really,
awesome.
Really cool. You have to tell everybody, what deck were you playing?
I was playing Ruby Amethyst this week.
Awesome. What kind of variant were you playing? Were you running Flynn's or were you leaning away from that?
I was still on the Flynn's. I practiced with some Cusco's for a while, and I kind of felt like Cusco's was sort of putting me in like a almost attrition style in some matchups, and testing I was like down to like 8 cards left in my deck in some cases, and I was like, boy, if I play against a wheel deck, I might get milled. So, yeah, it was a lot of testing between Cusco and Flynn. Yeah.
Flynn gives you that explosive kind of potential, when especially lets you speed up when you need to.
Yeah.
Did that play out on the day? Were you able to utilize his effect? Did he ever get you 3 lore?
So, yes, he did tick off in a few matches. One match, he basically just won it for me. I was playing against aggro. When I was on the draw, I think I stabilized and they were at like 17 lore and I had 5 lore. And then I was just lucky to have like Medusa and Elsa and things like that taking care of their board while Flynn was sitting there ticking. With the way my Swiss went, if I was on Cusco, I don't think I make day 2 just because of a couple matches. Because you can't drop a game if you can help it, obviously. Yeah. So Flynn winning me a game, basically, and Flynn winning me another game probably was enough to get there, because it's like you have to win 13 games or 14.
Yeah.
You can only lose 4 single games.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Very crazy.
It just goes to show you that those key deck building choices can be the thing that separates you from the pack and propels you forward. And then you also have to play, of course, really cleanly, which you did.
Yeah, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but still on like the Cusco Flynn discussion. My day 2 opponent was on Cusco's and Library and Crabs and things like that. And it was like very sort of like mirror checked. Cusco's, unironically, just getting more lore than Flynn, straight up.
Yeah.
And drawing just a few extra cards, that's enough.
Right.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when you're talking about the key 2 drops in your deck, these are cards that you're going to be playing in most games because they're things that you keep in your mulligan. They're an extremely prominent part of your deck.
Yeah.
And so when you make that choice to say, I'm going to prioritize the card draw for the mirror, it does give you that advantage in that very specific matchup.
One of my first questions, like when I sat down against my opponent in day 2, I was like, how were your matchups in Swiss? Did you have a couple mirrors? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I had 2 and 2-0'd it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, because I was so worried about green steel. All day I was just sitting down in the blind and just convincing myself like, okay, this person's playing green steel. I'm going to mulligan for green steel, because it's kind of like you get a good hand against green steel on the draw or the play or whatever. it's very good into like 90% of all the other decks. You know, like you might want a slightly different line into like Ruby Sapphire, but a hand with 1-drop, 2-drop, Rabbit, and maybe, you know, hopefully a 3-drop, things like that, and a Brawl is good into everything. But like all day, I just kind of seem to have a 1-drop Snake, Big Sisu, or a Fox, plus Brawl and an Elsa, like just like all day. So I didn't face Green Steel until round 7. And like all day I'd been like, oh, I'm playing Green Steel.
Yeah.
So finally it paid off. Just the look on their face when they dropped their 1-drop Diablo and they saw that I just had straight gas against them. It was just, that was the
sweet.
payoff for the weekend.
Yeah.
Seeing my Green Steel opponents' faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
So it's interesting. You mulliganed as if you're facing the worst case scenario every round. So then if it's not that, then you're still equally prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
Like, it worked out against aggro, too, because, like, the same answers are doing the same thing, and...
Really, really interesting.
I mean, it shows that practice makes perfect. I mean, that's like just practicing mulligans alone, you know? Like, that made a big difference.
You know what was sort of unfortunate about my run in a way is I practiced into everything but the mirror. Like, I was just like, okay, if the mirror happens, you know, generally resource battle, attrition battle, yada, yada, yada. You get rabbits, they don't get rabbits kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. So I wasn't, like, super worried about the mirror, but... if I ran into like a Ruby Amethyst that was running the same list as my day 2 opponent, I might not have had a great Swiss. Like that might have been enough, you know.
You're kind of hedging your success a little bit. Part of being successful in these tournaments is taking advantage of your opportunities, right?
Right.
Because you could have easily, even though you're saying, "Oh, I didn't face this in this matchup," the matchups that you did face were very skilled opponents. When you get deep into a tournament that, and when you're on round 7, 8, 9, and you're in contention for day 2, you capitalize on all those.
They're sweating.
Yeah.
Like we're sweating. You know, everyone's making deliberate moves and taking their time. And I don't think my opponents, like round 5 or 6 on, my opponents weren't really making mistakes. Like it was like round 1 through 4 where it was like, okay, you know, there's some mistakes here, and it's like I'm capitalizing, but after that it was just like pretty tight. I didn't pick up on a lot of mistakes out of my opponents.
That's crazy.
Speaking of practice, can you walk us through what was your night like? You find out that you're in day 2 on Saturday. You have this match coming up in the morning. Did you sleep? Did you eat? Were you nervous?
Yeah.
What was your process like?
It kind of felt like, okay, it is what it is. I feel like my opponent has an advantage being a higher seed. I'm on the draw. But I still feel like I have a chance. You know, it's like something's got to go my way just a little bit here or there. I think I got to sleep just fine. And
good.
I didn't eat breakfast. I just waited to eat. I was like, I'm going to get through the first round, good or bad, and then eat. Because it was just like, food wasn't going to do me good.
You had a little bit of a butterfly in your stomach, or just like you didn't.
In my head, I was like, okay, food isn't going to feel good right now. Yeah.
So sometimes the best food is the one that you don't eat.
Yeah.
Your brain food.
Somebody did give me some Reese's Sticks on the way in.
There you go.
I had some Reese's Sticks after.
There you go.
Sponsored by Reese's.
Awesome. Wow. Did you have any particular matches that you want to highlight? Was there any moment that you remember as being particularly, amazing that's going to be standing out in your memory?
I would say I think playing against Blurple was pretty fun because, like, when I tried Blurple myself, I was like, wow, this is fun to play. Like, sometimes not very effective, win on the play, but not, that deal. So playing against Blurple, and they did well enough against me to get one on me because they landed like 3 locations at a point, and I just couldn't quite clear it all up fast enough. But yeah, Blurple, and then just the most memorable thing, and I'll just remember it for a while, is just my last 3 rounds of Swiss was green steel, green steel, green steel. And I was just ready for it. And 2-game format, taken by surprise in the first round, basically, and then just mulligan well in the second round. And I had moments where my opponent got basically the god hand. The only thing they were missing was Storm on 2. Shift, Diablo, Storm. Like, there was a lot of lines where they had it minus Storm. They had Little Diablo, Big Diablo, Morph, Hidden Cove, Beast.
Yeah. The worst thing you can possibly see sitting across from you.
And I
Nauseating.
had One Drop, Snake, Fox, Elsa, Brawl, Rabbit.
Perfect.
Like,
Beautiful.
every time almost. And clear the cove with a combination of Snake and Fox, and then Brawl the Diablo, and then Elsa the Beast, turn off the draw, and just watch my opponent's face drop. Because they invest so much into that.
Sure.
And they're left with like 3 cards, and they're just a little dejected looking, and it's like, I love this.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
it's like Rabbit the next turn, sing with Rabbit, play Finders Keepers, load back up to 8 cards.
Love it.
Beautiful. Wow.
Well, what a glorious feeling. What a great run it was, taking Ruby Amethyst all the way to the top 64. One more question before we go.
Yeah.
What is a go-to snack for you to get through these long tournament days? What's the
Yes.
one thing that you're like, that will help me combat 9 rounds of Swiss fatigue?
Or something you wish you had if you didn't have it, you know?
I had better snacks in Texas. I just literally had granola bars and water, and I did not properly snack up for this one. And I think I would make sure I have snacks and water going forward, because I had a little bit of a headache by the very end of it, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
So you hear it straight from the mouth of somebody who is hot off a top 64 finish. Make sure you snack so that you don't get headaches.
I did want to
Yes.
say one more thing, because I feel like it's the biggest lesson I learned
Awesome.
from Swiss.
Please.
Is when you're putting your deck together and you're thinking about a big tournament, I think it is smart to take your wins and take your losses. You just sort of gear towards something, because you can't beat everything, and then just hope your matchup variance is in your favor. Really,
Yeah.
you know.
Excellent. Pick the deck that
great
you
advice.
like. Take its good matchups and its bad matchups, and do
Exactly.
the best you can.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Know what it
And
is.
just have no regrets on the weekend. Really.
How can you
Yeah.
after a weekend like this? It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you, and it's so much fun to root you on all weekend.
Yeah, we're so happy
We're
for
really
you.
proud and happy for
Yeah.
you. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sleepy. I feel like my breath doesn't smell good.
Yeah, it's been a long weekend,
It's been
and
a long weekend.
it's not going. You're not going to take your toothbrush onto the floor of the DLC. So sometimes you need to carry mints. Remember, we always say that it's polite to carry some mints with you at any tournament.
Indeed. It's also good for your brain.
Wakes you up a little bit.
Yep.
Well, we would be remiss to not include a minty dream card, even during this very busy weekend.
Indeed. And Brett, you've pocketed some beautiful mints for us to take down here to the tournament.
We have a tournament-related dream card this week.
Ooh.
One that has a little bit of meta humor, dare I say.
Ah.
We have a new steel action card called Tilting.
Ah. Tilting. What does tilting do?
Tilting is a 5-cost inkable steel action that says, if no character has quested this turn, opponents cannot play actions and their characters gain Reckless until the start of your next turn. Your characters cannot quest this turn.
Wow.
So it basically says, you can't quest this turn, your opponent cannot quest on their turn, and they can't play actions. It kind of pauses the game state and says, you gotta fight it out, Glimmers.
I love that. It kind of lets you build a board state. It like causes a freeze on their side of the board. So you could, potentially add 4 characters to the board and they can't play actions. And then you can kind of pause and gain some speed, gain some ink or whatever you need to do on your turn to get that leg up.
Right. You can still ramp. You can still give your characters resist with an effect like Cusco, say. You can advance your win condition if you build your deck around this. But it's limited by the fact that it does cost 5, right? So you're not going to be able to do a whole ton, especially on turn 5, but it will be nice to potentially pause the game in some scenarios, right?
I love that. I also love the Sword in the Stone art that you've chosen here.
Yeah, we've got 2 knights tilting in the lists.
And sometimes in card games, you can tilt.
Yeah, so I wanted the effect to be like really, really annoying for your opponent and like kind of be like aggravating, put them on tilt. so to speak. So, a little bit of meta humor here.
It's good. And the flavor text here is, "That'll teach you to pop off, you little pipsqueak."
That's Kay bullying poor young Arthur, of course.
Kay is just so mean.
He's not a great guy. That's why he can't pull the sword out of the stone.
That's the truth.
He doesn't have the right spirit.
'Tis not the once and future king. Hooray for S'more Awards. S'more Awards.
The S'more Awards are coming back. That's what's next on the menu. We will be putting out a ballot this week. Be on the lookout for that on all of our social medias. So we'll have a ballot. You'll be able to vote for your favorite nominees for the S'more Awards. And one lucky entrant, one lucky person who fills out a ballot will win a giveaway.
We have all kinds of cool giveaway materials in our pockets, in our buckets, and we can't wait for another giveaway. It's our favorite thing to do.
That giveaway is going to include a Rapunzel pin and a green Lorcana pin, and as a donation to the prize pool from our good friend superfan Jimmy,
Farmer Jimmy,
a first chapter starter deck.
Whoa! It's taken a lot of self-control for us to not open up that first chapter starter deck on our own.
But we'll include that in there. We'll have lots of goodies. Usually we throw in some stickers and some other cards and stuff. So definitely be on the lookout for the S'more Awards ballots.
Until next time, everybody.
Keep on snacking, y'all. There's that Seahawk again.